Hello, hello. I am 1 minute late, and I apologize for that. Okay, so I don't see anybody here yet, but I'll just get started with the live video. Good afternoon. My name is Mike. To update you basically on the airplane search that I've been doing and some of the background work, because there is quite a few of background work that needs to be done. So I'll get started. And I do have some of the questions that you guys have asked me in I think I uploaded the video 2 weeks ago on, my plans to buy an airplane, and I've gotten quite a few questions. A lot of it is just, what's going on with it, uh, so on and so forth. So I'm going to answer some of the questions based on my show notes here. All right, so that's the first thing. And then I'll answer some questions on the comments area. So please, this is your time to ask me any questions live that you possibly could have. Just type in here and I will try to answer as much of them as I can. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just update you guys and then answers a few more questions. All right, so first things first. From my video before, I remember I compared mainly two airplanes. I was literally, hey Johannes, I was literally comparing two airplanes, and that was what my mind was set on, which was the Cessna 150 and the Piper Cherokee 140. Well, really 140, 160, or 180. There's three different models of that airplane. And as some of you may already realize from that video, I sort of have a preference. What's up, Keegan? Thank you for joining today's live stream. For some of you who saw that video or who've seen my videos over time, you may already notice that I have a preference for low-wing airplanes, and that's because I train in one. So I kind of my brain and my vision in terms of my perspective from inside the cockpit is sort of used to that low wing, flying a low wing. So that's why I have a preference. But like I said, really it's whatever airplane that's safe enough for me as a low time pilot, and then also that meets the mission that I have, and also that's within the budget. So those are the things that I'm looking at. And I don't know if you guys, please let me know if you can see me clearly. I'm sort of in my little corner here. Last video I did, in the last live video, I was telling you guys that we were in the middle of a move. We're actually in the new place right now. I don't know if you can see behind me. It's dark, but there's boxes and crap all over the place. But it's just back there. But let me know if you can see me clearly. For everyone who's just joining the live stream, thank you so much. So let me continue here. So again, from the last video, I had just the Cessna and the Piper, and then I also had a poll. And I appreciate everyone who's contributed to comments and suggestions based on experience of what they think. I also had a few posts on aviation forums, and I've gotten a lot of good feedbacks on other airplanes or models that I should look at. But one specific one was the Grumman. So whoever is familiar with this airplane, maybe you can educate while I talk about it also. So I was looking at the Cessna and the Piper, and now I'm looking at a Grumman. So with the Grumman, it's an older airplane manufacturer, and they have two basic models. You have one which is the AA1A, I think. It starts with the AA1A, and then there's AA1B, and then AA1C. Saying all that to say that that's the two-seater version, okay? And then they have a four-seater version of the same airplane. They have the Tiger, the Traveler, and so on and so forth. And each airplane model has different horsepower, different engine, and things like that. So I've been looking very much at the Grumman, but in future videos, I'll tell you some of the things that I'm looking at, and I'll discuss some of them right now. So first things first with this airplanes, one of the things that I'm looking at, believe it or not, other than useful load and performance and things like that, I'm looking at the accident history of these airplanes. So I go and I look at, okay, if I read, say, 10 reports of accidents, say for a Cessna or a Piper, I'm looking, is there a common denominator or something common with all of these accidents that you can maybe, excuse me, sorry, just had a text. So is there like a chain of something common with all of these accidents that I should look out for? I look at that, and then also I look at individual reports. Is there something that happened that's maybe the air related to the airplane itself and not the pilot? Because when you look at a lot of aviation accidents and crashes, a lot of it is pilot error. But if you look deeper, you can find something similar with all of these airplanes or all of these accidents that you can say, okay, that's not the pilot's fault. That may be something that's faulty with the airplane. So I look at that in general. And I'll give you an example. Recently, just researching, I was looking at a Zenith 601. So Zenith it's an experimental airplane manufacturer, and they have different models. Their low wing two-seater, the earliest model is called the 601. And I saw that within my budget. I saw between 25 and 30 grand. And I'm like, wow. I just got excited because one, it's a more modern airplane and it has a glass cockpit. So I'm like, man, if I can get something like that within my price range. So I got excited for a minute. But then I started to read the accident reports for the 601. And one of the common thread that I saw with those accidents was that this specific model just had a fin for breaking apart in midair, right? So there were several accidents for this specific model where the airplane wings just came off or something just breaks apart while in flight. It's like the scariest thing in the world. And a lot of the accidents obviously were fatal because, when you have no wings or your airplane just breaks apart, then you're pretty much screwed. So reading those accidents, I was like, no way I would be buying a Zenith 601, mainly for that reason. And I'm sharing this story with you guys because this is something that I would want you to consider also. Just don't look at your mission. Just don't look at, thank you, Keegan, for posting the Grumman model names. So just don't look at your mission, your budget, and all those things. You want to read the accident report, and really, it is hard. It's one of the hardest part of this whole process. Everything else is exciting, but when you read the accident reports, it's hard, but it does give you. It helps you make a more smarter purchase, so to speak. So that way you can see if something is generally wrong with this airplane model or not. So that's why I'm doing it. So you don't have to do it, but I would encourage you to do the same thing. All right, now I'm just gonna look at the chat, see if anybody's asking questions before I move to the next thing. Um, Brandon suggested I get a Falcon. If you're gonna loan me $1 million or $3 million, I'll be happy to, man. Okay, so I don't see any questions just yet. So I'll move on to the next thing. So in this whole process, and I have to say that, look, one of the reasons why I'm doing this and why I'm trying to document this process is, look, to inspire others out there who have ever thought about flying or just owning their own airplane. And people may think that, man, you have to be extremely wealthy to be able to purchase an airplane, whereas you can buy one and own one if you have a decent middle class salary like everybody else. Okay, that's the whole point of this, me making the videos to document this process. Now, speaking of, from my last video, I have decided that I'm going to finance the airplane rather than pay full price for it. Now, I do want you guys to let me know what you think. Me going that route instead of just paying upfront purchase price for the airplane. And for me, my thinking personally is, look, I've made the mistake of buying cars brand new before, and they depreciate and I'll lose so much money afterwards. And I thought about that in this process because buying an airplane I know is very much different from buying a car, but it's the same mindset for me. I'm like, okay, If I see an airplane that I really like, should I just pay 25 grand up front, or can I keep more of my money and just finance it? That's just one of the reasons. But another reason why I decided to finance is, for me, one, tax purposes, and then also being able to keep an eye on the numbers. Like, I'm able to stay more organized in terms of how much this airplane costs me on a monthly basis. So in terms of finance, my budget for it now would be like $1,000 per month. So I know that I have $1,000. Anything that goes beyond that, I can't afford, right? So with $1,000 per month, that would include the cost, the payment for the airplane, hangar fees, engine overhaul, fuel, operating costs, all of the above. So all of that has to be within that. Now, for those of you out there who may be thinking, man, that would not get you much, you can get a lot of airplane for $1,000 per month. And I know people who spend $1,000 per month on their cars, leasing an expensive BMW or Mercedes Benz, and they're spending $1,000 per month. And I'm going to prove to you that with that same budget, you can fly a decently nice airplane. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I'm going the financing route. Now, speaking of financing, initially I thought it would be, I'm not borrowing a lot of money. Say I borrowed $20,000 out of the 25. What I realize is that it's not just a walk in the park like you would with a car. So here in the US, if you're going to lease a car or finance a car, it's very easy. They check your credit, or sometimes all you need is a driver's license, and boom. They don't ask for much in terms of your income and things like that. Whereas this past week, I've actually been talking to a lender and all that, and they're asking for everything. They're asking for my tax returns the last 2 years. And I'm sharing this information for maybe someone who may want to go the same route. It's a little bit more complex. It's like buying a house. They're asking for the same things that you would be requested of if you were to purchase or get a mortgage on a house. So they're asking for income statements. They're asking for my last 2 years of taxes. They're asking for my business balance sheet, and it's just a bunch of things, right? So you should keep that in mind if you decide to go the financing route. The process is a little different. Okay, so I'm gonna pause on that and answer a few questions. Let me just read through here. Hey, John. Yeah, so John says that his parent owned a Grumman in 1973 Grumman. Now, I've been looking hard at the Grumman, and again, part of my own research is I also look at the accident history. Now, literally all of the Grumman pilots that I've spoken to online, they've said a lot of good things about that airplane, and mainly because it's affordable and you get a lot of money for what you pay for. I mean, you get a lot back for what you pay for it. Now, particularly the two-seater, which is really what I'm looking at. I'm not looking so much at the four-seater, like the Traveler or the Tiger. The Tiger to me is the cream of the crop, right? I've heard a lot of good things about the Grumman Tiger, but I'm looking at this two-seater because that's the plane that's really in my price range. The four-seaters, I'm seeing them range 30, 40, and $50,000 and up. So I'm looking at the two-seater, and one thing I've read in the accident reports is this airplane is bad in terms of the stall speed. That's the first thing that jumps out to me, even before reading the accident reports. So the early models of the AA1s, they have a high stall speed, in my opinion, at 57 knots, right? So for example, comparing that to say a Cessna or Piper, those airplanes stall at like 48 or 47 knots. Even the Diamond Star that I trained in, the stall speeds are between 49 and 52 knots. So 57 seem a little high for me. And then with that concern, after I read some of the accident reports, it validated my concern when I saw that, okay, these airplanes like to go fast. And I've heard people tell me that if you're flying a Grumman AA1, you don't want to slow that thing down, especially on approach. So, and that's one thing that I'm concerned about. Say, for example, in a day where there's a lot of headwind or crosswind, and you're going in, say, at your normal approach, and you get hit pretty hard by some gust and headwind, that could cut down your speed by a chunk. And God forbid, you don't want to stall an airplane in that situation. So for me, that's what I was concerned about. Even though, like flying a faster airplane like the Diamond Star, I generally don't come in. I mean, I generally come in between, say, 70 and 80 knots. So most likely I would not hit that 57 knots mark, but still a concern for me. I would prefer that I have an airplane that if I make a mistake as a pilot, which I'm bound to do in some cases, I want the airplane to be safe enough for me to be able to recover. So that's one of the things that that's a concern for me with the Grumman AA1 series. But like I said, I've heard a lot of good things about them. I'm still looking at them, believe it or not. And Jim Harrison wants to, oh man, I am so glad that you got back into it. That's amazing. That's amazing. I hope you go all the way. And for your sake, I hope, the FAA continues to come down on the medical requirements. So, like for those of you who may not know this, for older generation or someone who is, say, over 40, the age of 40 years old, getting medical in order to be able to fly over the years has sort of become a little harder. And even, I believe last year or 2 years ago, they passed a new law where medicals are much easier now. But for those who are 40 years and over, for your sakes, I wish that the FAA continues to lower some of the high requirements for medicals, and because it is a requirement, and it is something that could hold you up. That's why a lot of older people that I talk to, a lot of older pilots that I know, they opt in for LSA, they opt in for the light sport because their medical stops them from flying a fully certified airplane or going the private pilot route. So for your sake, Jim, I'm very happy that you got back into flying, man. And somebody, let me see, man, there's a lot here. Okay. 2. Sorry, I'm just reading like 1,000 stuff per minute. John mentioned financing will help credit. Yes, believe it or not, that's also, so John mentions that financing helps build your credit also, and that's one thing I'm considering going to finance. I've never financed any type of vehicle before, and I know that it does help build credit. So this is an opportunity for me to build my credit for whatever that's worth. The Cessna 182. Jen's Cruz says it likes the 182. I love that airplane too, except I feel like the 182 is a step forward. Even flight schools that I've seen use that airplane to train their pilots, again, they usually use them to train for more higher rating, say commercial. And it's a heavier airplane to fly for sure. I hear you, Craig. Craig is saying to finance, because he finances Cherokee as well. Sparky on Wheels. Am I going to PPL? I have a private pilot license, so, but if you're asking for yourself, you want to go to PPL through private pilot license or sports, there's a lot of questions I would need to ask you on that. It depends on what you want to use the license for. But I do encourage people to just go the full route of getting a private license if you can afford it. Thank you, Keegan. Keegan helped me answer that question already. Okay, so I don't see any questions here. If I'm not answering your questions, please flash me if I skipped it, because I would like to answer. Keegan, okay, so for all of you guys who are planning to be at Oshkosh, I will be there from the 23rd. I believe the 23rd is when I'm scheduled to be there, and I'm probably going to be there for a couple of days. So I hope that answered your question, Keegan. I'll be there from the 23rd of July. I appreciate that, Najee, the trucker dude. I'm glad. Look, this is crazy. Whenever I read comments from, people who say they get into flying from watching my videos, then I feel like I'm doing the right thing. I really feel excited for you guys who are getting into flying because again, we all dream about it, we all think about it, and perhaps we didn't think that it's possible. So I'm very happy that just watching some YouTube videos inspire you to get into flying. That's awesome. Or class 3. So for Grant Stone, he asks, do you do basic medical or class 3? So for the most part, if you're going for a private pilot license, I believe a third class medical license is what will be required or what's encouraged. So at third class, I don't know if I did a video about this, but maybe I should. So there's first, second, and third. And the third class is the one I have, and it lasts you for 60 months. All right. And really, a medical, like I said, or as I said before, and I remember posting a video of a serious accident where the pilot had a third class medical license. So that lasts you for 60 months. And then after 60 months, you have to, go again and get checked up or whatever. And the reason why, medical stuff is required is they want to make sure that you don't have any type of illness that could alter your ability to fly safe. Sometimes you can have, say, for example, you have an air infection. I don't know if that's one of the things they test, but you have to understand when you're flying, the higher you fly, or when you go from high to low or vice versa, the air pressure changes. I don't know if you've noticed this. For example, if you're flying commercial airline, and whenever you come into land, you notice that you probably need to pop your ears out or whatever have you. And if you have an illness, say that, those things can cause damage to your own health and body, and that could alter your ability to fly the airplane safely. The FAA wants you to take a medical checkup to know that you're sound enough to fly an airplane safely. So that's really what a medical is for. So Keegan says I should check out a Tomahawk. So a pirate. I don't know if that's a high wing, or I believe that's a high wing airplane, or that's a low wing two-seater. I might have seen that airplane looking at it a while. Okay, so I'll get back to the questions because I want to try to cover everything on my notes here. So I've talked about financing. That's the route I'm going with this. And then the next thing is insurance. So like you insure your car, you should insure your airplane also. Now, the difference with a car is having insurance on an airplane is actually not a requirement. It's not legally required for you to have insurance on an airplane, but I would say it's financially sound to do so. So insurance, I already got quoted for insurance, and they quoted me about $760 for the year, which is great. So if I put those numbers together, I was quoted also for the loan that I'm looking for around $25,000, and they told me it would come down to about 6.24 interest rate. So when I did the math, that's roughly around $230 to $240 a month for the airplane. So that's very affordable. And then if I add the insurance at $760 for the year, if I break that down, that's about $66 roughly per month. So say $240 plus 66, I'm at $304 per month. So that's still a fraction of my entire budget for the month, right? Per month. So now the next thing that's going to cost me more money is where am I going to park the airplane? Okay, so unlike a car, right? When you buy an airplane, you can't park it in your garage, except maybe you have your own airfield or something. So you need a hangar, and believe it or not, this is one of the ones that's been challenging for me. So I have two different airports that are within driving distance from here, and right now I'm actually deciding which one would be the better choice. So Airport A, we'll call it A and B. Airport A, it's closer to me, but it's a busier airport. There's a lot of private jets and a lot of business aircraft that goes through that airport. And also because of the traffic, it's also more expensive. So the hangar costs there are more expensive. And for me, things I'm thinking of from a safety standpoint, if I have a lot of big jets flying in and out of this airplane, as a low time pilot, I don't necessarily want to deal with that because that comes with its own safety concerns if you're flying with, in the same traffic pattern with big jets. And sadly, I've seen some accidents that's happened where ATC would always give preference to a commercial jet or to a bigger airplane than a smaller airplane. So I don't want to have to worry about those things. So that's some of the things I'm considering. And then the airport B, which is a little further out from me, um, it's a more low-key airport. And from what I've seen, you have a lot of private airplane owners there. So there's a decently good pilot community there that's not so much corporate or commercial like. And I've also flown out of there twice already. So I'm considering Airport B as my home airport, although it's further out. Okay, so that's one thing that some of you may consider whenever you're looking to purchase an airplane or whatnot. You have to find out where the hell you're gonna park the airplane, and your home airport is going to be important. And again, different factors for different people. For me, safety, costs. How much am I paying per month for the hangar? Just the environment in general. Again, for Airport A, it's very corporate like, very much business like. There's not a lot of like single pilot ownership like myself. So I don't know, and to me that would affect the pilot community in general. So those are the things that I'm looking at when I compare Airport A to Airport B. All right. Now the third thing is partnership. I have one or two of you just from watching my video reach out and said, "Hey, if I would consider going on a partnership," and I never thought of it before, but it is obviously there's the good side and there's the bad side from going into a partnership. The good side is it's cheaper. All right, if it's cheaper if two people are paying for an airplane than one person. So that's one thing I'm considering. But then from a financial aspect, say you go into or I go into a partnership with somebody right now, I'm thinking down the line in the future because things happen. Life happens, you never know. And what if your partner says, "Hey, listen, I can't afford to pay for this aircraft anymore, or I'm very short cash right now," or whatever have you. Something happens where the partner is not able to pay for the airplane anymore. What that means is the load is going to fall back on me. And I discussed this with my lender because I wanted to find out the pros and cons. So that's the main concern that I would have. And also with a partner, you want to know some background about them, how often they fly, how many hours did they have, because you do want to own the airplane with a competent pilot and somebody who's not going to fly the airplane anyhow or not take care of the airplane as if it's theirs. So that's another thing I'm considering partnership. But you guys let me know. For those of you who own airplanes in a partnership or in a club, let me know what your experience has been. And maybe I'll think more towards that side of things. Man, I gotta give. I feel like I have to pay Keegan a salary because he's always helping me answer a lot of the questions in the commentary. So thank you, man. I really appreciate it. So my next thing on the agenda here is, so I've discussed the financing part, insurance, and then partnership. And now, and really, if you notice, I haven't actually talked about searching for the airplane because I want you guys to understand some of the background work that is involved in buying an airplane. And this is new for me as well, and I'm learning as I go. So another thing that you have to consider in terms of your costs is your pre-inspection costs. So, and that's two different costs. It will cost you time and money. So one of the key things that I'm looking for right now is an AP mechanic that's local here. So I've been talking to some pilot friends, and I've gotten a few referrals. So I'm calling each person to find out, if they are able to work with the specific make and model that I'm looking to buy. Excuse me. So, excuse me. So that's part of my search. And if you're looking to buy an airplane too, that's one of the things you have to consider. You have to find a good AP mechanic, except you're one yourself. If you're an AP mechanic, then great. You can work on your own airplane. Believe it or not, it's one of the certification that I would love to get sometime in the future, because my dream is to build my own airplane, and I would love to. I would love to. I would love to get my own certification as a mechanic so I can move forward and build an airplane. So that'd be great. Now, for Twisted Mickey, if I had a just ban button, which I think I do. See, there it goes. Isn't that awesome? You're on my platform and you're trolling. I can easily just a click of a button and you're gone. See, that's the sweet thing about technology. See, but everybody else, I apologize for whoever that douchebag Twisted Mickey is. But that said, let's continue, because you saw I got a little caught up there because I was looking at what kind of crap is going on the comment section. So back to the AP mechanic. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at right now, to find someone local and also someone who is able to work on the specific make and model that I'm going to purchase. And then that takes me to the second cost. So part of your buying process is you have to, or you're encouraged to, you don't have to. There's no legal penalties if you don't, but for safety reasons and for legal reasons, you should definitely do a pre-buy inspection. And that's generally, it's best to do that through a professional mechanic. Unlike a car, if you wanted to purchase a car, a lot of times you just go look at the car. If you're mechanically inclined, you can see things here and there. For the most part, you're just going by yourself, and based on what you see or how the car feels like, you pay for it, and then that's it. But with an airplane, you want to be a lot more careful, and that's why it's best to do a pre-buy inspection. And you guys have actually helped me through this. You've given advice on some of the questions I should ask, or some of the things that I should look out for in terms of those inspection. So I'll give an example. I mentioned in my video that I'm looking for something with at least 400 hours left on the engine. And some agreed with that, some didn't. But one of the advice that was given to me was, hey, you should also look, if an engine is low time, you should look how many times or how often have that airplane been flown. How often is that airplane or the engine has been flown? Because look, when an airplane sits for a long time, that's bad. That's bad for the body. That's bad for the engine. So you might find an airplane that's very low time, but it could be low time because nobody is flying it, and that's a red flag. So you don't want to buy an airplane that's just been sitting. Okay, so that's one of the things that I'm looking out for. And obviously I'll be taking an AP mechanic because I want them to do an extensive review of the maintenance logbook, of all of the other logbooks, the airworthiness of the aircraft, and things like that, and things that I just as a pilot would not be able to see with my own average eye, so to speak. But an AP mechanic will be able to look at the airplane and inspect things that they should inspect, and be able to tell you, hey, listen, now, and the thing is, I'm not expecting a used old or 50-year airplane to have everything intact, right? It's an old airplane. So I expect to, for a mechanic to tell me, hey, you might need to fix that, or you need to fix that immediately or whatnot. And if the price makes sense, you buy the aircraft. But if there are way too many fixes that you need to do on the airplane, then you probably want to walk away. But that said, whether you buy the airplane or you walk away, you still have to pay your mechanic for their time and for the work that they've done. So that's the cost of your pre-buy inspection. Again, this is new to me myself, so I'm just learning as I go. So, but that's one of the costs that I'm looking at. Originally, I just budgeted $1,500 to $2,000 for that because I know it's better to do it than not to. And then I'll move forward. Now, let me answer some questions. Let me see. I've had. Yes, and honestly, it helps me if you call me out at Mojo Grip. That helps me highlight the question because other than that, all I see is just white ink, and I'm trying to read through them. So if you have a question, put at Mojo Grip. That way, I can see your question. Hey Al from Armenia, thank you so much for tuning in. Sal said, "Don't crunch the numbers. You stress yourself out." Well, yes, it is stressful, but it's also exciting because I'm constantly itching. And believe it or not, you know, I'm giving myself a lot of time to do this. I promise you guys, I'm not like I'm excited, but I'm not rushing through anything. I'm giving myself months. I'm not trying to buy an airplane next week. I'm trying to do every background work, all the research, ask all the questions, and really take my time to finding the right airplane and making sure that the numbers make sense. If they don't make sense, then I don't want to do this, because there's only so much that I could personally afford. All right. So I get that crunching the numbers will stress you out. That's a good advice. Chris Cagle, I hope I didn't butcher your name. He says you can park a Kit Fox in your garage because the wings fold up. I don't know if you're familiar with Trent Palmer. I follow his YouTube channel, and just watching his videos, actually has gotten me interested in getting a Kit Fox. But then when I think of my mission, I don't know if a tailwheel hiring airplane or a STOL, so to speak, short takeoff and landing airplane is what I would really want. And I would maybe reach out to him or Kit Fox and see, okay, is this airplane really capable of doing proper cross-country flights? But I do have Kit Fox on my list of airplanes that I'm looking at, believe it or not. But another thing is Kit Fox, it is experimental. So you are essentially buying an airplane that somebody else built. Just make sure it's built well. So I'm not sure if there are other things to look out for when you go the experimental route, meaning if you were to buy a used experimental airplane. So I'm sure there are other things that you want to look out for because it's not built by the factory, it's built by somebody else. And I would have to take a ride on one first. Okay, Jonathan, yes, I will. So Jonathan says I haven't done a video on medical licenses yet. So I should do that because it's part of your requirement. Whenever you are doing your flight training to become a pilot, you have to go through a medical certification. And so that's part of the things that you have to do. So I should do a video. As a matter of fact, let me write it down right now. I don't think I have it. Medical license video. So I'll probably read up a little bit more on it because it's been 2 or 3 years that I did mine last. So some laws have changed since then. So I'll do some research on it and then do a proper video and qualify when they actually can. That's possible too. Right. Nice fixed costs and insurance. So Sal was asking what my monthly budget is. Thank you, Keegan. Answer. So my monthly budget, $1,000. Honestly, if I spent lower than that, because again, the airplane I'm looking to buy, I don't want to go over 25 grand, except I see something that blows my mind. My thing is the only way I would go over 25,000. So if you saw the video released this morning with the D820, that airplane, it was good. It was great to fly. It was very familiar to me. If you're coming from a D840 and you fly a D820, it's very familiar, some of the characteristics and the feel of the airplane. But one thing that I did not appreciate is the steam gauge. And the reason for that is, again, my eyes, most of the hours that I have has been in a glass cockpit. And so my eyes are trained to just look at one screen. So if I'm looking for my airspeed, if I'm looking for my turn angle or whatever have you, I'm looking at the same screen. If I'm looking for my ground speed, just several things are literally in front of me like this. But in a steam gauge, I'm looking at different screens. It's in front of me, but I'm looking at different things. And that was a little challenging when I went up to fly the D820 because of those steam gauges. But I know that in my budget, it's likely that I'm not going to get a glass cockpit. So I have to retrain my eyes to fly a steam gauge, so to speak. Excuse me. But as I was saying, the only way, or one of the things that I would consider if I were to go over budget, is if I find, say, a Cherokee, for example, with a nice glass cockpit, even if it's a small Grumman G5 that can tell me my airspeed, tell me a bunch of things. I prefer that than to look at 3 different things to be able to tell what I'm doing. So that's the only way I'm thinking I might go over the budget. But for now, $1,000 a month, whatever that can buy, and really I'm looking at a purchase price of 25. Let's see, more questions. So Kente, I hope I didn't butcher your name. Please, if I don't pronounce your name right, forgive me. So Kente is asking if the 1K includes the airplane payment itself. Absolutely. So believe it or not, out of that 1K, one of the lowest costs is the payment for the airplane itself. Right now, I'm looking at my hangar cost to be more than the airplane cost. So the 2 airports that I said are closer to me, the average price for the hangar there, it's $330 from what people have told me that I've asked. So if I'm paying $240 for the airplane and it costs me $330 just to park it, it's more expensive, but I have to do it. The other option would be to get a tie down, which is a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. I think tie downs you can get anywhere from $50 to $100 to tie the airplane down. But the downside to a tie down is, again, you're exposing the airplane to a bunch of weather stuff. It could get rain on, corrosion. So those things like that, you have to think about. Also, I actually did ask my insurance, or the people quoting me for an insurance, and they told me if I go with a tie down, although it's cheaper, my premium for the insurance is going to go up by 10 to 20%. Okay, so now it's a matter of doing the math. There's a lot of pilots out there or owners out there who use tie downs. I'm actually curious if you're one of those. If you own your own airplane and you tie down, you don't have a hangar, please let me know what your experience has been, because right now I'm not looking to do a tie down, but if it's not a big issue, I can save a few $100 per month if I went the tie down route. So you guys let me know. Let's see. 64. Okay, so Sal is saying that he's a commercial pilot and his insurance for airplanes is only $600 a year. So that's another thing that I should mention. So just like in a car, or what location you're in when it comes to cars. Your insurance rate is determined by your experience as a driver and how safe you've been as a driver. For pilots, one of the key things that helps your insurance rate is one, the airplane itself. You know, if it's a basic fixed landing gear airplane, then it's probably not going to be as expensive as, say, an airplane with retractable landing gear. I think I've covered this in my past videos. But another thing the insurance company will look at is how experienced are you as a pilot? And so they look at how many hours you have. For me, I'm at 145 hours. So I'm relatively low. I'm relatively low in terms of my experience. So my quota is gonna be different from, say, someone like Sal who has over 4,000 hours. And so he will be paying significantly less per year or per month for his insurance. And then let's see. Oh, and Keegan mentioned insurance through AOPA. So if I didn't mention this, I guess I'm giving AOPA a plug here. Both the lenders that I'm working with and my insurance that I'm working with is through AOPA. If you're not familiar with AOPA, it's a great resource for if you're a pilot or if you're thinking about becoming a pilot. AOPA is a great resource. There's a membership fee. I believe it's $50 to $70 a year, which I think is worth it because they provide you with a ton of tools. And for someone like me who's looking to buy my first airplane, it's been really helpful. I can go there, try to get a loan for the airplane, try to get insurance, and you have those tools available to you. So I should put that out there. I am going through AOPA Finance. But it's not the only option. You can always go through your local bank or whatever have you. And then Keegan also mentions EAA. EAA is mainly for experimental, I believe. So if you're into experimental airplanes, which again, that is Mike's future for sure. That's where I want to get into at some point. EAA is great as well. I'm a member there too. So those are great resources to use if you're a pilot and you want to get more into the pilot community. Let's see. Oh wow, Sal said it took 2 years to find the right airplane for him. I hope it doesn't take me that long. I want to take my time, but 2 years is super long. Buy from another country, no. Grant Stone, I don't know if that question was for me. If you were asking what I'm building, if I'm building an airplane today, you guys know I've covered the Sling and Vans RV10 on this channel. So those are the two airplanes, honestly, that are at the top of the list in terms of build. Once I go the experimental, not if I go. So once I go that route, those are the first two airplanes on my list. And a lot of people have been mentioning Kit Fox lately, so I might, I don't know what I'll be doing then. So Kit Fox would also be on the list of airplanes to build for sure. So Greg Villa says it took 9 months to find his airplane, and I'm glad you found one. Again, I honestly hope it doesn't take me that long, but if it does, that's how long I'm gonna take. And see, for a lot of us, this is a learning experience. I didn't think that it would take me a week or a month. There's some people who find the right airplane for them in a short period of time. But again, for me, I do want to take my time and find the right airplane because this is something either I use it or not, it's going to cost me a lot of money, at least a few $100s a month. Whether I fly the airplane or not, it's going to cost some money. So I do want to take my time in finding the right one, and just for safety reasons, it's something that I don't want to rush into it. So I'm definitely taking my time for that. So Dark Lord Bob, what I'm buying, I'm looking at a Cessna or right now a Piper, and I'm looking at the Grumman also, mainly the two-seaters. Particularly, I would say the AA1C, which is the later version of the Yankee Grumman, and this has a much lower stall speed as compared to 57 knots. On the Lynx, which is the one, the AA1C, the stall speed is at 53 knots. But again, when I look at the accident reports, so actually I should mention this also about accident reports, and I would encourage anyone in my shoes to do this as part of your pre-buy research. Look at the accident reports, see if you can find a chain of events. So one thing I actually did this past week, I looked specifically at Cessna 150 accident reports. I looked at the Cherokee, and then I looked at the Grumman. And this time I didn't go into specific details of each accident. I just look at the tally up. So one of the things I also look at is, out of all of the accidents, how many of them were fatal? How many of them ended up with somebody losing their lives? And so when I look at the Cessna 150, it had a 40% fatal rate, which is not bad. The 150, as we know, is a very forgiving airplane. And that's to say, majority of those accidents actually ended in the people being able to walk away, or at least their life is saved. So that's a good thing. So it had a 40% fatal rate. When I look at the Grumman, all Grummans, I basically counted 100 accidents, right? And with the Grumman, 62% was fatal. So with that, you have about 38% rate with the pilot and whoever was on board was able to walk away. And then when I look at the Piper Cherokee, only 30% or 33%, a third of all of the accidents were fatal. So that's another thing that I personally look at. Now, it doesn't really say anything. It doesn't mean that one airplane is safer than the other. As I mentioned before, a lot of accidents are due to just pilot error. So a lot of times it's not the airplane, it's who's flying the airplane. So I'm not saying that, because of this stats, one airplane is safer than the other, but it is good to know that, okay, what's been the history of the accident reports? Again, with the Cessna, you have a 40%. With the Piper, you have a 33%, which for me makes me feel decently good in terms of, people being able to walk away when an accident happens. So Sal says AOPA is kind of pricey. Please, you can message. As a matter of fact, for Sal, I'll type in right now. Email I'll give you an email to email me. See, there you go. That's one advantage. If you come to the live stream, you get an email. So Sal, please email me what you have in terms of the insurance company that you're using, if I can save some money. Although I don't think $66 is that much. That's at least half of what I'm paying for my car insurance. But apparently I can get cheaper insurance through somewhere else. So that said, I'm just going through the list. I have maybe one or two items on my notes, but I do want to answer some of your questions here. Let's see. The live stream loan. I have no idea what the live stream loan is. So Sal is talking about a live stream loan. If you can explain a little bit more on that, please let me know. You got it at 4.55%. How long ago was that? So Sal is saying that he was able to get to finance his airplane at 4.55% interest rate. Right now, I'm being quoted for 2% more than that. I'm at not 2%, but I'm at 6.24. And I've been told that the interest rate is only going to go higher. So if you can let me know which platform you use or which company, you have my email right there in the comments. Just hit me up and let me know. And somebody suggested, why not use a broker? Okay, so as a matter of fact, I will use a broker if I can find a good one. And here are the advantages of using a broker. Obviously, if you buy through a broker, you're probably going to pay a little bit more in terms of the purchase price because they have to take their fees. They're doing a lot of work in finding these airplanes and also putting them together, making it presentable. Now, the thing with a broker is you have to trust their judgment. They have to have a good reputation. If they don't, it's like just shooting in the dark, right? So what a broker does, at least from my understanding, is they find airplanes, they either fix them or do all of the inspection that you would normally have to pay an AP mechanic to do, because they would have their own mechanics. So they will do all of that stuff for you. They've checked the log books, the maintenance records for the airplane, and they tell you, okay, we've done all that work and this airplane is good to go. So that's the advantage of going through a broker, because they kind of do all the legwork for you, and all you do is show up, see the airplane, and maybe still bring your own mechanic to see the airplane. So I'm not opposed to using a broker if I can find a good, reputable one that's close to me. Or if you have one, email me. My email is right there in the comment section. Just email me, and I'll reach out to them so I can use all the help that I can get. Looking at Pete. So Sal, question for you: if you went through so did you go? Okay, you said you went through a broker. I guess you answered my question already. So another thing, actually, speaking of inspection, I don't know if you guys have been following the news recently. Just a month, sometime last month, or could be early this month, a Cherokee, I believe it was a Piper Warrior, there was an accident or a plane crash where the wings snapped off in midair. And that's not the first time that that's happened in the lines of Cherokees. So I believe either a new 80 is already out for that line of product, or one is going to come out soon. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at when I'm looking at the Piper Cherokee. You have to look at your ADs for each airplane, and whatever ADs that are out for the Cherokee, I know this is going to be something about those wings that you need to make sure and get it inspected. So look for corrosions, because these airplanes are really old. They're really old, so you want to make sure that at least the body parts are intact. So that's one of the things that I'm looking out for in terms of the wings of the airplane. If I'm looking to get a Piper Cherokee, I definitely want to make sure that I don't run a risk of the wing just snapping off in midair. That would be a disaster. So just to put that out there. So Keegan, with the coupe, man, I looked at that airplane. It's great. I mean, it's a nice looking airplane, but I don't think that airplane would serve my mission. At least the mission that I want in terms of traveling long distance. And it also looks very small, and it's not the most powerful. Now, again, remember, I'm not so thirsty for speed. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at slower airplanes on purpose, because I'm trying to get an airplane that's within my own skill level. So I'm not thirsty for a fast airplane, but that specific make and model, it's a little still slower. It's in the range of the Cessna 150, but I think the Cessna 150 might be just a little bit faster than that airplane. Really, I just want an airplane that can cruise at least around 100 knots, so around 115, 120 miles per hour. That's what I'm looking at. Let's see. Most of them are LSA complete and super cheap. Believe it or not, I've seen them in the same price range as the 150, so anywhere from like 15 to 21,000, I believe. Keegan Charles, the worst movie I've seen. It's a random question. I forgot this movie by Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. That was the most just terrible movie that I've ever seen. I forgot what it's called, but if somebody can remind me what that movie is called. This is when they both got together for the first time, and they decided to make a movie together. Bad idea. That's the worst movie I've seen ever. I don't remember the name. I'm sorry. Um, Dylan does tech. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Keegan, if you can find me one under 15K, please message me and let me know. Oh, and another thing about that airplane, from a video I saw, it says that it doesn't have, I don't know if it was flaps or it didn't have one control system that most airplanes have. So I'm not sure, but I'm sure that it's going to be a learning curve to learn how to fly that thing. But if you can educate me more on the airplane, maybe I'll take a look at it. Costas is asking how long is it going to take to, how much is it going to cost to park the car? You mean the airplane where I live? First of all, I can't park the airplane where I live because it's too big. Again, except you have your own private like airstrip or something, you have to park your airplane at the airport at a hangar somewhere. You can't really you can't park it in your garage. Now, the Icon A5, for example, through their marketing, they tell you because the wings fold, and same thing with the Kit Fox, you can park those things in a garage, possibly. So, except you're buying those two airplanes, most other airplanes with the wings fixed like that, you can't park it in a standard garage. So, it will cost you some money to get a hangar. Depending on your location, where I'm at, the average cost over $300, which sucks, but that's the reality of things. Oh, sparking on wheels, yeah, of course. Your emergency located transmitter. I'm sure that's one of the. So sparking on wheels says to make sure your ELT, which is an emergency located transmitter on an airplane. It should be on every airplane, and the function of this device is basically if your airplane was in distress or God forbid the airplane crashed, it would go off and send a radio signal out. And every airplane should have one. So Sparky is saying to make sure that whichever airplane I buy should have one. So definitely. And I know there's a new law coming out, I believe 2019 or 2020, about your ADS-B. Now, a lot more airplanes are going to be required to have one, but I'll leave that video or that conversation for another video. The Whitman Tailwind. I'm going to take notes of some of these airplanes that you guys are suggesting because I've never heard of them before. Whitman Tailwind. So Keegan just suggested that I look at the Whitman Tailwind if I'm looking at experimentals. I am looking at experimentals. Again, as long as they're below $30,000. I really, again, part of this process is so that I can prove to you guys, because one of the videos I launched a while ago, the title is called, you can go look at it now, it's called Personal Airplanes That You Can Purchase for Less Than $30,000. That airplane has gotten a lot of views, and I get a ton of questions or comments left on that video, and people actually think that it's a joke or it's not true or it's not possible. And a lot of the comments that I read on that video is, well, yeah, you can get them cheap, but it's going to cost you a fortune to upkeep them. But that's not necessarily true. If you get a decent old airplane, it doesn't have to cost you a fortune to maintain or operate those airplanes. And really, that's what this whole process is about. Other than the fact that I'm personally excited and want to do it, I do want to prove to anyone out there that it's possible to own and fly your own airplane for under $30. Obviously, you have to consider your other costs, but the purchase price under $30. I mean, $30,000, not under $30. Let's see, Dylan, question. Things still cross country. I will look more into a Kit Fox. I did see some on Barnstormers for in my price range, but they're much older. It's a much older airplane, so I will look into them. I will have to get my tailwheel rating or endorsement though, because I don't know how to fly a tailwheel yet. But that's an additional rating. If you buy an airplane with the tail wheels, then you have to get additional training to fly it. So Chris is asking, would it save more money to buy an inexpensive plane first before getting a pilot's license, then train in your own airplane rather than rent? Also to build time. Answer, yes, 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 and yes. Okay, now depend on where you are. Some of you have heard my story over and over again. I spent 3 times the national average to get my pilot license. I spent close to $30,000 to get my license, and really, most people spend less than 10 or between 10 and 15,000 for a private pilot license. If I knew that my experience was going to be that, I would have this process that I'm doing right now. I would have done that when I was getting my license, because I would have rather gotten a small Cessna 150 or something. If it cost maybe 15, 20 grand, I could have spent money buying the airplane and just training in my own airplane and building time and still own the damn airplane. But because I didn't do that, I went through the normal way, and I went through a school that, there's some question mark there. But to answer your question, Dylan, yes, not Dylan, Chris, sorry. I would definitely encourage you, if you can afford it, buy an inexpensive airplane that you can build time in and that you can train in. I would definitely encourage everyone to do that if you can afford it. Okay, so anything now? Okay, no, I'm not gonna win a lottery. Let's see. So Keegan, I'm curious what you have against the Garmin Avionics. I'm very familiar with Garmin. Maybe this would be a topic for another video. I actually meant I have in my topic list to make a video on avionics, because especially for people who either own or fly certified airplane or experimental, a lot of times the only names that you hear is Garmin and Dinan, but there's so many other uh, avionics companies out there that you can get. I don't know if the prices are higher or lower, but you have options. So that would be for another video. Mr. Short Rounds, how far do you consider a cross-country flight to be? For me, 300 miles. And sometimes it may be longer, but really 300 miles is my cross-country. At least that's what I'm planning for this airplane. Something that can do 300 miles easy. Yes, Sal, I know that my budget, so Sal mentioned that if I'm not into steam gauges, then my budget is not enough. I know that. So I know that once I get whichever airplane I end up buying, I would have to retrain myself to get used to flying a steam gauge. I mean, it becomes fairly easy once you get a hand of it, but it's just having gone through steam gauge to glass and then now going back to steam gauge, just a little hurtful, but I can get used to flying a steam gauge, no problem. So I'm gonna answer the last few questions here because we're over time. I'm gonna answer the last few questions and then we'll call it a day for this video. Boom. Okay. How close am I? I would have to look up those airports. Honestly, I don't know. I'd have to look them up on the map and get back to you. Okay. Also remember from tie down. Okay, so as some of you already mentioned, better to get a hanger than to get tie downs. I already kind of knew that. But again, I was considering it initially because the first airport that's close to me, it's more expensive to get a hangar there. Also, there's a waiting list. So if I wanted a hangar today, I couldn't even get one because there's a waiting list. So I thought my only other option was to get a tie down. But then I looked at an airport that's a little further out. So I'm likely going to use that as my home based airport. So somebody suggested, is that pronounced Akia or Aquila? I'm not sure if that's a Spanish word or not. Aquila A210. If you can give me more details on that airplane, Aviation Janice, that would be great. That would be helpful. Hey Sal, thank you so much for tuning in, man. I'm you're working on a Sunday. That makes two of us. Okay. Oh, that was for Keegan. Sorry. Okay, so I'm reading. I'm gonna read the last question with highlight. So someone asked, "Have you looked into a Mooney?" Yes, I looked. I was looking into a Mooney, but I think Mooney is a little too much airplane for me. And you might think I'm a sucker for saying that, but Moonies generally have retractable landing gear, which makes them complex, and they're faster. One of the reasons why you buy a Mooney is because you get a lot of speed for the buck. You get a cheaper airplane that can go really fast. And based on the conversation that I've had with the wife, I want to get an airplane that's relatively fast, but not too fast for me. So that's why I'm not really looking at Moonies because for me, I think the speed is a little high there. But eventually, I might step up into a Mooney. But right now, I'm not considering a Mooney for those two reasons. It's usually a complex airplane, and also it's faster. Okay. Authentic Max, no, you don't need to be good in physics and math to be a pilot. No, you don't. It's not even a prerequisite. It's not required. You just need to be able to pay attention, and you should be good to go. You don't need those subjects to be a pilot. All right. Uh, I'm gonna answer the last three questions. So, is it bead window 7? Or 07, is it illegal to mount guns on private planes? I have no idea. I know it is legal to carry guns if you're living in the United States, depending on what state that you're in. But I honestly don't know. I would have to look at the FAA website to read about guns. So yeah, no, I don't. I honestly can't tell you the answer to that. But you may ask in a pilot forum. You might have other people who do patrol work or whatever have you. They have guns in the airplane. Somebody asked, does my budget include flying time? How many hours a month? Yes, my budget absolutely includes flying time. And I'm thinking I'm going to be flying between 5 to 10 hours a month. I could be flying lower than that. I don't know. But I'm just forecasting that I'm going to be flying between 5 to 10 hours a month. And I think my budget should handle that pretty well, which is $1,000 a month. Let's see. I'm gonna answer this question. Julius Malema Senior says, "You look like you only get white women." No, that's actually not true. I just happen to be married to a white woman in your eyes, but look, that's a video for another day. But no, I don't only get white women. I look at women the same. Who you marry is up to you, you know. Jamrock, where are you located? I'm in the state of Georgia. Jerome, thank you, man. Okay, so Keegan, thank you. Please for all of you guys who want to send me stuff, I'm leaving my email. I actually left my direct email in the comment section. So if you have any suggestions for me, let me know. You can email me. Again, I'm very grateful for everyone who's contributed either through suggesting something or whatnot. And that said, before I end this video, I do want to give a shout out to all of my patrons, all of you guys. Thank you so much, Keegan. You know what? Let me go on there right now and announce the name because you deserve to be announced rather than me just speaking off at the top of my head. Let me get the names here. Where are you special people? So Stephen Jones, Al, Craig Lewis, Keegan, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Honestly, this video is made possible. Initially, I was just going to do live stream videos for people who are on my Patreon. But, you know, you guys really made this video possible. Hell, you make a lot of what I do. You make me interested in putting out more videos. So thank you so much. For those of you who are watching and don't know about my Patreon's page, I do have a Patreon. It's only $1 a month. Initially, I had it where I had a set of stages or fees or whatever have you, but I took all that crap out. I'm not going to ask for a lot of your money, but it's only $1 a month. And really, it's just to support the channel. And I thank all of you guys, Keegan, again. Thank you so much for contributing to my Patreon. And you guys made this live video possible. So thank you all. Thank you for tuning in. I will try to do more live videos again as my search process goes on. Part of this is to educate all of us, myself included, on how all these things are happening. So I will probably be doing more live videos, just Mojo Grip, and I will catch you guys later. Thanks. Peace.